So I seen this yesterday, and we have to be fair with people. We have to be honest with people here. That the Irish state has criminally neglected the army for the last few years. Criminally, like it's literally criminal. People should be going to prison for the state of the Defence Force at the moment. The Irish Defence Forces. For years they neglected them. The understaffed, underpaid troops. And, now they're all about the feds and etc, etc. But long story short, the government are trying their best to get into NATO. And again, what's happening here is, let's be fair and let's call it what it is, and why they're neglecting it for so long. Because they wanted the European army. Like, they generally wanted the European army. There wasn't nothing to do with it backwards looking at your sovereignty, as our Taoiseach, just to say, our Prime Minister has said it, backwards looking at your sovereignty. And of course, in my opinion, everybody's opinion, idea of sovereignty, that you're able to defend yourself, you have your own people that are willing to fight for your country. But again, they have no backwards looking. They don't want a backwards looking at your sovereignty in Ireland. But long story short, coming to that, this is based in Ireland joined the European Battle Group there a few months ago, which was absolutely insane for a neutral country to do. And it's criminal. Basically, the politicians who signed up to it criminally should be criminally charged, in my opinion. Because they didn't go to the people. It'd be different if they said we go to the people and ask the people. The people tell them to go and keep the European battle group up and stick it somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. And the same with this. If they went to the people now in the morning and said, should we give 7 billion to other countries in Europe to defend themselves as a neutral country, they would tell the people would tell them to go shove it up their arse again. And rightly so. I would do the same if I was in the people's situation. But long story short, there's nothing going to be done because we have nobody with backbone in this country that's willing to tell buses to go and stick it up their arse. And that's what needs to be said to them, because we shouldn't contribute anything. That's 7 billion. If Brussels is really insisting that we contribute to use 7 billion for something, give it to the men and women of the Defence Forces here. Give them a pay rise. Give them a big pay rise. Get equipment. Fund the Navy. Get an air corps together. Get fighter jets. Like, if they're crying and saying, oh, we have to give 7 billion to the European Union and stuff. No, we don't. We could just take that 7 billion and be like, fuck you, European Union. We're going to use it for our own sake, for our own defence, for our own sovereign defence. We don't need it. And the Irish media at the moment are going mad, trying to get Ireland into NATO. But again, the majority, as I said, the topic in Ireland, 95% of people in Ireland are not too keen to go and fight in another country and die in another country. And especially for a government that hates them. Like, the Irish government absolutely hates you and me. They treat us utter contempt. Across the board, right across the board. So why would a young person that can't afford to rent a house, let alone ever hope to buy a house, why would he go and die for Micheál Martin, for Simon Harris, for Catherine Connolly? Why would he? Why would a young lad, say at 18, go off and fight a war for another country, and God knows where? Why would they do that? Why would they do that if we did join NATO? Why would we spend hundreds of millions of euro on NATO? Why would we? Simple as that. And the same with this. Why would we? Like, why? What's the benefit? It'd be different if Ireland was getting something out of it. As it says here, there's literally a pat in the back, and that's really it. A pat in the back and a well done and thank you, and that's about it. And it's to do with population, it's to do with other factors too, and budget and GDP and all that crack. But at the end of the day, as a neutral country, we shouldn't be giving any money to European defence. For our own defence, yes, but not for any other country. We're on our own. Like, Ireland's on our own. If anything ever came our way, it's on our own. It's our own business. But as it says in the proclamation of the Irish Republic, beset by the destruction of the Irish people themselves. They're the only people who can destroy the country. It's the Irish people themselves. And, Irish people are perfectly willing to go and fight for their own country, their own country's defence, if the enemy ever does turn up on our shores. Whichever country comes and threatens us, we fight. I'm determined the Irish people will fight for their homeland if the enemy ever does come to our shores, but they're not going to go and fight somewhere else for some other country. Simple as that, and that's just straight up. Nobody's going to do that. Why should we, as a small country, send our men and women to die? Why should we? And as you know, Ireland has been a huge proponent of peace in the world, has been a huge fact of helping to restore peace in the world. We see that in Lebanon, we see that many times over our history in the Congo. 60 years of peacekeeping, more than any other country nearly in the world, of peacekeeping, upholding peace in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, that are ravaged by war, ravaged by famine, etc., and unstable governments, etc. But Ireland's role in the world is peace, and as a neutral country, we can achieve that. We can help countries, we can negotiate. We're more respected too as a neutral country, because we can talk to people. We're not on anybody's side. We're basically on the side of peace and understanding people and getting what they're at, every side of any conflict or whatever it is. That's Ireland's role as a neutral country, and the simple and it's benefited Ireland severely, extremely well. Extremely well over the years. And it really, really has. In a lot of cases, it really, really has. We're very well respected by countries across the board for a neutrality, and not even that, for upholding peace. And that's the main goal of the Irish people, is peace. That's as simple as that. It's not war, it's not conflict. It's about peace, and that's all the Irish people care about. That's all they care about. That's why we don't want to go and fight in wars. We didn't want to. Again, we have to increase our military budget. There's no doubt about it. But nobody ever wanted this to happen, or like a huge military budget. But as I say, this one neutral country shouldn't be given this 7 billion to anyone, but to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to defend ourselves. But we would defend no other country, and I make no apologies about that, because that's simply the truth, and that's straight up, to be totally honest. But as I say, we shouldn't be given any money. That money should be used for our own defence, because it's very stupid. Why would we do it to give it to the European Union, for other countries' defence, when we have our own defence to worry about, and especially the state of the defence forces here at the moment. Like, every bit of it's needed, because for years it was just underfunded. It's now €1 billion in funding a year, which is not much compared to other countries. But that €7 billion could do great for the defence forces here. If we could get a lot more men, we could get the recruitment to be through the roof. If we could give a huge pay rise with like €7 billion, and maybe a bit of extra equipment here and there. That could do mighty work for the country in defence, and even open up some of the old army barracks and getting more recruitment. Take, for example, in places like Cavan, where there used to be a army barracks, and they closed it down, and other places. So it could be great use for the country if we use that 7 billion productively, instead of giving it to the European Union. And that's just simply my truth. If you agree with giving 7 billion to the European Union, fair enough. But I don't agree, because there's no benefit. It'd be different if there's some benefit, and I know people would say we are in the European Union, we have to do it. We don't have to do anything. Simple as that. We already give huge amount of money to the European Union. We don't have to do anything. Simple as that. And especially as an independent country, we can say no. We said we won't. Simple as that. If we have politicians with backbone, we won't. What will you do about it? That's as simple as that. Because they have many other countries that are all in NATO. They have huge protection within NATO. With the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, with all the funding that they have, etc., all in a big pot. And especially for a neutral country, that's my point too. As a neutral country, we get nothing out of it. It'd be different if we were in NATO. You could argue it's for our own defence too, but nobody's going to come and defend Ireland if we're attacked. It's ourselves alone. It's up to you and me, the Irish people, to defend ourselves. We're on our own, and that's the thing, and that's where we should be, on our own. Against whatever comes our way, and that's been the history of Ireland for generations. We had to fight for independence ourselves. Nobody came and fought forward for us. It's the same with everyone. You have to fight for your own country, and your own beliefs and stuff. But I don't agree with it. Generally honest, I don't agree with it. It's the same, but I don't mind giving only money contributed to the European Union. Every country has to do that. But I think it's a bit of cheeky to ask Ireland to contribute to the defence fund, pretty much, for basic defence. It's insane as a neutral country for other European countries, and again that goes against neutrality too. Say if we're funding Poland or Lithuania or Latvia or Estonia, other countries could be like, yeah, how is Ireland neutral? They're literally funding the other countries' militaries. They'll be like, that's not neutrality. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more. Bye.